Hello guys, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto fall in love with Hermione and Harry try to erase his memory? If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let's start the story.
There was a knock on the door at 12:54. When Dumbledore said that this guard would be arriving at 12:54, they thought that he should have just said around 1 in the afternoon, but at precisely 12:54 there was the guard. He was shorter than expected at just 5 feet and 4 inches. He wore a black cloak, with a hood that hid his face, and the only thing one could see besides the cloak was a sword, the handle poking over his left shoulder. He gave the impression of death, he even smelt like it. He was a sight which none of the wizards had expected. One would have thought that the guard would be a wizard, but the sword said otherwise. "I am Fox. Dumbledore-san asked me for my assistance for this year. Do come in, Mr. Fox. I will show you to your bedroom. Then I suppose you will be hungry, so I will make you a light lunch if you wish," a plump red-headed witch offered. "Thank you, Mrs. Weasley, I would appreciate it." The witch was shocked that he already knew her name. Fox came into the kitchen where he was joined by Harry Potter, a boy of 15 years. Harry has messy black hair with piercing green eyes. He was often told he had his mother's eyes. As Fox entered the room, Harry noticed two things about him. One thing was that Fox had a hot body, that is to say, fit and heat body, and two, he was limping. Also in the room were Ronald Weasley, his friends call him Ron, and his sister Ginny, Sirius Black, Harry's godfather, and Hermione Granger. Ron Weasley was a tall and lanky boy with flaming red hair and subtle blue eyes. He was the tallest in the trio of himself, Harry, and Hermione. Ginny looked like her brother in that she had flaming red hair, but her eyes were a soft brown. She was around 14, so she wasn't yet tall, but she was getting there. Sirius Black was also a tall man in his mid-30s. It was only 2 years ago he had escaped from Azkaban, a wizard prison. He still had the sunken look, but he looked a lot healthier. Hermione Granger was a short know-it-all. Her hair was always messy, and her two front teeth were slightly larger than the rest in her mouth. Even though she was an insufferable know-it-all, she still had two good friends in Harry and Ron. They were the only people in number 12 Grimmauld Place at the moment, as well as Mrs. Weasley. Fox had removed his cloak, and it was apparent that he was wearing black tight leather trousers, a long-sleeved fishnet shirt, which showed off his muscled body, and black arm warmers that had metal plates on them to protect his forearms. The sword remained where it was, while a now visible, white mask of a fox where his face was supposed to be. The fox looked as though it was grinning manically. His blonde hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail, which had something metal tied into the bottom, which was at hip level. Fox-san came and sat by Harry, and once again Harry was the only one to notice a slight twitch of pain as he sat down. Mrs. Weasley laid a sandwich in front of him. "Thank you," Fox said. "Bloody hell, he's got longer hair than you, Hermione." Ron blurted out. "Ronald," Mrs. Weasley said as she slapped him around the back of the head. "It is okay, Mrs. Weasley. I get it a lot," Fox-san said as he sat and looked at his meal. He realized that to eat it the other must see his face. He hesitated before slowly reaching up with his hands and unclipping his mask. This revealed a young face which could be no older than 15 and had 6 scars on his face that looked like whiskers. Harry was sure that the scars were a mark of torture. There was no other explanation for someone getting marks like that, for they were so precise. They were not jagged like they should be. He also had fangs, which was not right, and they were at least an inch long. His pupils weren't completely round either, and the rest of his eyes had a yellowish tint. He was also, to Harry, the meaning of the word cute. Everyone in the room, apart from Harry who was almost drooling, decided that Fox was far too young for being a guard. He seemed too young to kill a person, and this poor child was probably going to be killed by something he probably only found out about a few days ago. Mrs. Weasley was horrified that someone would ask a child to fight and give his life for anything. Though the weirdest thing about him was not that he was so young, but the fact that there were no other marks on him except the 6 scars on his cheeks. "But you're our age. How can you protect Harry?" inquired a surprised Ron. "I am not a child. Not where I come from, at least. In my own country I am counted as an adult. I may be 15, but that is still an adult. The protection part is easier. I am not necessarily a wizard. I am in fact a ninja. Naruto told them, confident their question would end there. Ha ha ha, pull the other one, why don't you? Ninjas haven't been around for hundreds of years, Hermione remarked. Says the witch, Fox said to himself and sighed before continuing in a retort. Oh, so I know who the smart ass is then. You are wrong, Miss Granger. They were reported gone a long time ago, yes, but we still live in secret. So no, you wouldn't know of my kind, you silly little girl. Hermione's mouth became an O with her shock and bemusement. She tried to think of a reply, but her mouth opened and closed several times until she gave up. This is my life that I chose at 6. The academy is free to all, but only a few out of each year manage to pass to the genin level. But aren't you scared that you'll die? Hermione asked. If it for a good cause, then no. Death happens. Doesn't that upset you, accepting you own death? Asked Ginny. I accepted that I could die. Death is a fact, it's just how and when, and I think I still have a couple years yet. This is where Hermione thought that she had him. He seemed all right, but her brain told her he was too young, that he had not really been to war since the last war was a long time ago, and he was a muggle, so would not last against a wizard. I don't believe it, and if what you say is true, it doesn't matter, wizards have more power than muggles, so you can't possibly hope to win. She's right, you should go home and we can find someone else. Wizards are more powerful than muggles. Yes, but I can't remember saying I was a muggle. You're a wizard? Questioned Ron in surprise, but Dumbledore said you weren't one. No, I am not a wizard. I am, as I have said, a ninja, did you not listen? Wizards seem weak compared to us, Naruto said snidely. Are you saying I am weak? Sirius violently stood up and drew his wand. No, I said seem weak. Wizards use magic for many things, but fighting is only a small part of it. Wizards are not meant for war. Ninjas use a type of magic, called chakra, which is used only for fighting and nothing more. Saying that, I do have a wand and can do a lot with it, only I am not useless without it, Fox retorted. But ninjas couldn't do magic. Chimed in Hermione, who was starting to get aggravated. You're still using past tense. Hermione spun around to see Fox standing on the ceiling. How the hell did you get there? Ron shouted. Training. I would call this a type of magic. Wouldn't you? He then turned to Mrs. Weasley and said, It was a lovely sandwich, Mrs. Weasley. Now I know a lot about the wizarding world, but not everything, so I will be in my room reading. At this, Fox disappeared in a swirl of leaves. After the initial shock left them, there was silence. Harry, you've been very quiet since Fox-san arrived, Ginny said. I want to know, said Harry, turning to the order members, what it is he is guarding, me or the school, and which bedroom is he in? Well, you see, he is guarding the school, but the best way to guard something is to guard where it will most likely be attacked, so it will feel that he is guarding you more than anyone else, and he's sharing a room with you and Ron. Ron groaned at that, and Harry did not seem to care, but on the inside he was doing a happy dance. He was going to spend a year with a hot guy. Did he just think that? No, it must be a mistake. Later, Harry and Ron went to bed. As they came in, Fox was putting a book away. They did not see the book that well, but Harry managed to get a quick glance and noticed it was about the dark arts. So Fox-san, why don't you tell us about yourself? Harry asked. Please call me Naruto, I am only Fox when working, Naruto said in an overly happy way. And so Harry, Ron and Naruto sat and talked to each other about themselves. Naruto left a lot out. When they went to bed, Harry gave a little bit more attention to Naruto's body than was needed. This got him a knowing smirk from Naruto, so he hid under his sheets, which got him an odd look from Ron. Naruto was ever so slightly mad. This court was more of a, see how much we can do to make you look guilty before you go to Azkaban sideshow, than a court. They had just said that they wanted a quick case and tried to stop the witness. As a man, I use the word man lightly, who has did law as part of a BTech, I have one thing to say. How the fuck did they get away with that? I mean, in England, if something like a form with the name of the suspect on it gets lost, the case could be thrown out, yet they get away with that. And since no one will read this anyway, fuck you all, die, kill, maim, burn, blood for the blood god. Bunny will kill you in your sleep. I am saying all I say is true. Beta. Oh no. Well, I can't stand for that now, can I? Naruto thought. If you please, sir, this is a court case, one which will decide the life of a child, and therefore it should take as long as it has to. The longer the better, actually. After all, we would want to know we are right or wrong. I will not talk to a man who hides behind a mask about thing he knows nothing about, said Cornelius Fudge. the Minister of Magic and wearer of a bright green bowler. This is about fairness, about looking at all the evidence until we know what happened. It is not about looking at the ones which suit you at the time. A court should be run to find the truth and should give all an equal chance. So far you have changed the time and place at short notice with no care whether or not Mr. Potter found out that you had a judge who already has a bad relationship with Mr. Potter, and now you are trying to stop the only really evidence there is that is actually in favor of the defendant. All of that and your, what I say is right because I said so, attitude is what makes this a laugh, not a court case. I will not listen to a want-to-be Death Eater and, at this point he was interrupted. Be quiet and listen, you will drop the case or you will listen to the witness. This was a new Naruto, one which Harry did not want to get to know, it seemed evil in its very core. Harry also noted Dumbledore's reaction, which was to reach for his wand and then put his other hand on Naruto's shoulder and whisper something into his ear. Naruto huffed and then sunk into the ground. Naruto was gone for days afterward. It wasn't until the day of Ron's and Hermione's party for becoming prefects did Harry see him again. Harry was trying to get Mrs. Weasley out of the drawing room when Lupin, serious and moody, came in. "What's going on?" asked Lupin, before they came to the realization of what had happened when the dead Harry changed into a man about 6 foot 2 inches tall. The man had a straw hat on with a black cloak with red cloud on it which covered all but the face. The face was pale with stress line running from the top of his nose to the corner of his mouth, and his red eyes with a funny-looking pupil. Beside the eyes Harry saw nothing scary or frightening about the man, as he seemed weak and the squinting of his eyes made Harry think he was probably going blind. So it was a shock to see that it was Naruto who was now standing in front of them in full cloak. "Oh, go away," he said as he threw a knife at the boggart which scurried back into the writing desk. They were going back to Hogwarts and Hermione still didn't trust Naruto. Ron didn't like it when he was in work mode and Harry was just happy. He had always had this feeling that girls did not do it for him, but never did any boy before, and then here was a boy that Harry wanted to jump, or get jumped by. He had not decided whether or not he wanted to be on top or bottom yet. When at platform 9 3/4 Naruto of course got lot of odd look. A man with a black cloak and white mask with a sword was an odd look for a wizard. Naruto followed Harry to the train and watched them say their goodbyes. He could see and feel the people looking at him and at Harry. They all looked at him like he was mad or a poor misled child. It depended on if they thought that he was saying Voldemort was back or because Dumbledore told him to say so. However, they could not see that they were being misled. Weak and useless, Naruto flared some killing intent at them and they quickly looked elsewhere. Harry and company got on the train and went into one of the compartments. Harry saw that Naruto made no move to follow them. "Are you not coming with us?" he asked. "No, I will run by the train." Harry looked worried and asked, "Do you know how far it is?" "Yes, it's a day's run," Naruto said in a monotone and then took his leave out the window. Harry and the others, after meeting one Luna Lovegood, spent the train journey playing Spot the Ninja, as he ran and jumped alongside the train with ease. About halfway to Hogwarts, Draco Malfoy came in with red puffy eyes, to which Harry made a comment about Draco's boyfriend leaving him and Draco ran off crying, which was a bit odd. As they pull up to the Hogsmeade station, the students had an odd sight meet them. A man in a black cloak was riding a horse, or at least he looked like he was riding a horse. There was however no horse there to ride. Harry saw the horse, its black coat barely clinging to its skeletal frame and its bat-like spindly wings, however he said nothing. He didn't want to look stupid in front of Naruto. Naruto rode happily looking down on them. As they sat in the Great Hall, Naruto stood behind Dumbledore. Dumbledore did his welcoming speech introducing Naruto as Fox-san and the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, who looked like a toad and stopped Dumbledore from giving his speech so she could give one of her own. As her speech started, so did a quiet sound of toads and frogs, slowly getting louder and louder until you could no longer hear the new teacher squawk in a sickeningly sweet tone about the ministry and all that nonsense. The hall was soon in an uproar and Umbridge was yelling about something. This is when Harry noticed Dumbledore kick Naruto in the shin and the noise stopped. After that the feast went by quickly and Harry found himself in the Gryffindor common room where most of the younger years had gone to bed and everyone seemed to think the new guard was evil and would probably kill them if he had the chance. If only they knew. Harry tried to stand up for Naruto but they thought he was mad anyway, so few listened to his defense. This is when the window suddenly opened and Fox came in acting like everything was normal, as if entering via a window and then walking on the ceiling were normal everyday things. He walked until he was standing above Harry, and then dropped, his head landing on Harry's lap, his body across the sofa and his leg hanging at the end. God, what a long day. I'm so tired I could kill for something to eat. Harry was tempted to play with Naruto's soft-looking hair but fought against it. He did not need people thinking he was gay now, did he? House elf, Naruto said, and with a loud crack a creature appeared. It was short with grayish skin, tennis ball-sized eyes, bat-like wings with little tufts of hair sticking out and wearing a white dishcloth like a toga. There you are, could you make me ramen? Lots and lots of ramen? Naruto asked as the elf nodded. There was another crack and the elf was gone again. They are the best, said a happy Naruto as he pulled his hood down and stood so he could remove the cloak. This got most of the girl on his side. Then Naruto took his mask off, giving a grin which seemed to be bright and happy. Then he took off his right arm guard. This is when Harry noticed something. Naruto had never taken the left arm guard off, not even when he stripped butt naked in front of him and Ron. So, Naruto was hiding something and Harry wanted to know what. The ramen came and went fast, so fast that it was hard to believe it had ever came at all. After Naruto had made his cloak, mask, right arm guard and sword disappear into a scroll, he looked at the rest of the Gryffindors and said in a cheery voice, "Hi, I am Naruto. I will be staying here, so I hope to get to know you. However, when I have my mask on, it is Fox-san. I do have to be professional. I don't see why, but I am told I should be. Also, you are not to tell anyone what I look like or my name." He then turned to Harry. "Now Harry, Miss Toad is evil. She is the sort of person who would have Professor Lupin locked up and put down, because he a werewolf. And God knows what she would do to me if given half the chance," he said in his head, "when in her class there is no Voldemort, never was, never will be." "Got it? But he's alive right now and planning stuff," exclaimed Harry. "No, most of his planning is finished. He is just waiting for the right time to strike, but that does not matter. It's your word against hers, and when you're in her classroom she wins and there's nothing I can do about it. She will try and break you if you give her the chance, so don't piss her off." "Well, you seem to. That was your doing whatever you did, when she gave her speech," said Harry. Ron, Hermione and the rest of the Gryffindors now looked up with confusion. "How did you know?" Naruto asked. "Dumbledore kicked you and it stopped, so I made an educated guess." "Well, yes, it was me, but I am not a student and so she can't do anything to me, not really." Hermione now joined in on the discussion and interjected, "But what about the ministry? She's one of them, so she must be able to apply to get them to have you removed or something." "No, I don't come under magical law, so they can require that I leave, but it's up to me really. That's why she's here, so that she can overthrow Dumbledore and get rid of me. Now if you please, I had to run all the way here, stand for the entirety of the feast and then run all the way around, in, out, up, down, over, under and through Hogwarts, and I'm very tired, so good night." Naruto walked to a printing on the wall, said something in Japanese. The printing opened to what looked to be a middle-sized bedroom that was well furnished, and Naruto hastily closed the door to prying eyes and tried to go to sleep. "What's going on?" Ron said as he appeared in the doorway, only to see Harry kneeling on his bed, his wand pointed at Seamus. "He's having a go at my mother." Seamus yelled. "What? Harry wouldn't do that. We liked your mother," said Ron. "That was before she started believing every word the stinking Daily Prophet writes about me. So that was what this is all about, and I got up for it," a new voice said. Naruto was sitting on Neville's bed, not looking happy. Neville didn't look happy either, actually, he looked plain scared if anything. "I was just getting settled and all. Well, no one asked you to come," said Seamus. "Well, dealing with silly little fights is part of my job." Great, Harry thought, now he thinks I'm a silly little kid. "So what do you know?" "Only what Dumbledore tells you," Seamus said. "I know more than that. I saw the Dark Lord kill Cedric Diggory." "Then why did you not do anything?" butted in Harry. "I did," said Naruto with a big smile. "I got a job. Now, let me tell you a story. There was a boy who looked after sheep. One day he called Wolf and his entire village came running to find him, laughing and no wolf. The boy thought this was wonderful, and so the boy did it again, and the village came, and again there was no wolf. A week later I Fox came. A big fox with 9 tails, and the boy called Fox, and no one came. No one paid any attention whatsoever, and the fox killed them all. What the bloody hell does that have to do with anything? Said Ron. Nothing, but the point is that Harry has called the Dark Lord 2 times, and when people came they found Voldemort turning into ash, so going on the past, Harry is the one I put my money on. What? Asked Dean. Time for you to go to sleep now, no waking me, I'm tired and I have work tomorrow. Then Naruto left Neville to brush the leaves off his bed. How does he do that? Naruto was again standing behind Dumbledore. He had his mask on and was sticking his tongue out at Umbridge, though you could not see it. Harry, meanwhile, sat and looked at the timetable that had just been given to him. Look at today, groaned Ron. History of magic, double potions, divination and double defense against the dark arts. Ron went on talking and the twins came to talk with them, but Harry was watching Naruto as he walked down the Gryffindor table, and by that he meant he was literally walking on the Gryffindor table. Naruto came to a stop by Harry and said, "Remember what I said last night, when in her class, if you can call it that." Naruto then began walking off to the door and out to the rest of the castle. Naruto sat in the front of Snape's class, or he left his mask there and fucked off somewhere. You would never know with how dark it was. Snape paid no attention to Naruto. Naruto meanwhile took the time to watch Harry make a fool out of himself. He enjoyed potions. Snape had somehow took being biased to all new levels. It was then lunch. Ron and Hermione sat looking stunned as Harry left after having a go at them for bickering. "He need to get laid," said Naruto, sitting down at Harry's plate and picking up some leftover food before putting it back down in a huff because he couldn't eat it with his mask on. "Oh, hi Fox," putting Harry needing to get laid to the side for a minute. "Let's talk about you," said Hermione. "Oh, and what would you like to know, my little Hermione?" "Well, what is this symbol you have everywhere, the one that looked like a leaf?" asked Hermione. "Well, it's a leaf," said Naruto in a matter-of-fact way. "Yes, but it must mean something? It's the symbol for my village, the village hidden in the leaves, it's in a forest. We are not that creative when it comes to names." "I see. Also, what about that tattoo on your abdomen? That also seems mean something." "And why would you say that?" "Because it's not a picture of something and it seems like the ink has been burnt on. I was wondering if it could be a tattoo which marks you as a ninja." Hermione said this to see what he said. If Naruto was to say it mark him as a ninja, Hermione knew he was lying, because he would have said it off the bat. "Well, it is true that some ranks in my village are marked with a tattoo. For example, the one on my arm which marks me as an Anbu. However, that is the only tattoo I have." "But we see the one on your belly," said Ron. "Yes, but as Hermione pointed out, it was burned on. This is because it is a seal, not a tattoo." "A seal?" "Yes, something that shuts something away like a lock on a door. It can be used for many different things. Some, as an example, can lock away magic. Others can gain access to magic which could not be reached before to give the user more power." "And which is yours?" "It's a lock, the strongest lock in the ninja world." "And what does it lock away?" "Well, chat time is over, it's time we were off to class," Naruto said, as the bell rang. He got up and left. Divination had come and it had Harry just sitting in the shadows. "You know," said Naruto as he sat next to Harry, "having a go at them won't help." "I suppose, but what will?" "My personal opinion would be, go get yourself fucked. It does wonders." "And who would fuck me, as you so nicely put it?" Naruto looked at him. "Well, I can think of at least one. Loverboy," he said as he walked to the front of the class where he talked to Professor Trelawney until the rest of the class was in and sat down and the lesson started. The lesson about different types of dreams and how to interpret them. Dreams. Naruto was so glad he didn't have to do a dream diary. The first thing Harry noted in Dada was Naruto sat as far away from Umbridge as physical possible. "Well, good afternoon," Umbridge chirped to the class, blinking with all the sickeningly sugar sweetness she was capable of. "Tut, tut," Umbridge said. "That won't do, now will it? I should like you to reply, please. Good afternoon, Professor Umbridge." "One more time, please." "Good afternoon, class." "Good afternoon, Professor Umbridge," the class chanted back in a perfect drone. "There, now, that wasn't too difficult, was it? Wands away, quills out, please." Umbridge withdrew her own wand from her bag and tapped the blackboard with it. Across the board appeared the words, "Defense against the dark arts. A return to basic principles." "Well now, your teaching in this subject has been rather fragmented over the years, hasn't it?" Umbridge giggled. "So many teachers, and all of whom seemed to stray from a ministry-approved curriculum. You're all far behind what we would expect you to show in your 5th years." As a result, we will be following a structured, theory-centric, ministry-approved course this year. Copy down the following please. Course aims. 1. Understanding the principles underlying defensive magic. 2. Learning to recognizing situations in which defensive magic can legally be used. 3. Placing the use of defensive magic in a context for practical use. Does everyone have a copy of A Defensive Magical Theory by Wilbert Slinkard? A few people in the room muttered affirmative words. I think we'll try that again. When I ask you a question, I should like you to reply, yes, Professor Umbridge, or no, Professor Umbridge. So, again, does everyone have a copy of A Defensive Magical Theory by Wilbert Slinkard? Yes, Professor Umbridge. Good. Please turn to page 5 and read Chapter 1, Basics for Beginners. There will be no need to talk. Naruto watched Hermione not reading. This was going to be fun. Naruto wasn't the only one who'd noticed. After about 10 minutes of total silence, everyone had noticed Hermione's hand, and so Umbridge could ignore her no longer. Did you have a question on the chapter, dear? She asked. Not on the reading, no, Hermione stated clearly. Well, we're all on the book at the moment, dear, so I should like you to hold any of your other questions until the end of the class. It's a question about your course aims. And you are? Hermione Granger. Well, Miss Granger, I think if you read the course aims over again, you'll find that they're quite clear. I have read them over. But I haven't seen anything in them about using defensive spells. I can't imagine a situation arising in my classroom that would give you need to use a defensive spell. You surely aren't expecting to be attacked during class, are you, Miss Granger? We're not using magic? Ron yelled. And so it starts, thought Naruto. Students will raise their hands in my class, Mr. Weasley. Ron put his hand into the air, but Umbridge smiled and turned her back on him. However, now Hermione's and Harry's hands were raised. Umbridge glanced at Harry, but then addressed Hermione again. Did you have something else, Miss Granger? Yes, Professor. Surely the point of defense against the dark arts is to practice defensive spells? Are you a ministry-trained educational expert, Miss Granger? There was something to be said about this woman's love for the ministry. No, but then I hardly think that you are one to decide what the point of my class is. Wizards of much wiser minds than you have made the approved curriculum, and you will be learning defensive spells in a safe, secure, risk-free way. It would hardly be risk-free if we are attacked, stated Harry. Umbridge just ignored him. And your name is? Dean Thomas. It's like what Harry said, if we're going to be attacked, it won't be risk-free. Do you expect to be attacked during my class? No, but I do not wish to criticize the way things have been run in this school, but you have been exposed to some very irresponsible wizards in this class. Very irresponsible indeed. Not to mention, she gave a cruel little laugh here, dangerous half-breeds. At this there was a growl from the back of the room as Naruto let out a dark aura. As I was saying, Umbridge said, trying to cover her fear. You have been exposed to complex spells inappropriate to your age group, and potentially lethal. You have been frightened into believing that you could be subjected to dark attacks every other day. No, we haven't, Hermione protested. Your hand is not up, Miss Granger. Hermione clenched her jaw and put up her hand, and Umbridge just turned away from her. It is my understanding that my predecessor not only performed illegal curses in front of you, but on you. Yeah, well, he turned out to be a maniac now, didn't he? Dean interjected. Your hand is not up, Mr. Thomas. Now, it is the view of the ministry that a theoretical knowledge will be more than sufficient to get you through your examination, which, after all, is what school is all about, and your name is Parvati Patil, and isn't there a practical section on our examinations? Aren't we supposed to be able to show that we can do the counter curses and other things? If you study the theory hard enough, then there is no reason why you should not be able to perform the spells perfectly during controlled exam conditions. So we will never get to practice them beforehand? I repeat, as long as you have studied the theory hard enough. And what good will theory be in the real world? Said Harry loudly. This is school, Mr. Potter. Not the real world, so we're not supposed to prepare us for what's waiting out there. Harry continued. There is nothing waiting out there, Mr. Potter. Who do you imagine would want to attack children such as yourselves? Harry adopted a mockingly thoughtful expression. Let me think. Maybe Voldemort? There was a dead silence. Everyone in the class stared at Harry, many in horror. Umbridge broke the silence first. She was not smiling. 10 points from Gryffindor, Mr. Potter. Umbridge looked around at her students with an odd look in her eyes. I want to make something quite plain to you all, she whispered. You have been told that a certain dark wizard has returned. This is a lie. It's not a lie. I saw him, I fought him. Harry protested furiously. Detention, Mr. Potter. My office, tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Umbridge said softly, showing no trace of anger. This is a lie. The Ministry of Magic guarantees that you are in no danger from any dark and dangerous forces. If you are frightened about this, come speak to me. If someone is spreading lies about any dark wizards returning, please tell me. I am here to help. Now please return to your reading. Harry stood up. Harry, no. Hermione hissed, trying to grab the back of his robes and pull him down again. Harry would not be moved. So according, Naruto forced Harry back at his seat. Umbridge did not look pleased at all. She wanted Harry for as long as possible, so she could break him. Mr. Fox, I do believe that it is not your places to interfere in the classroom, she said with disgust in her voice. It is my job to keep order. If you can't keep your class in order, then I will, said Naruto with an equal disgust in his voice. Well then I am sure you will be punishing him? Of course, your detention tonight, and the rest of the week he will be in mine. Naruto finished and went back to the back of the class. So, said Hermione, why do you think it is that Naruto came to my class instead of divination? The trio were sitting around the fire in the Gryffindor common room. He couldn't have been in your class. He was in divination with us. Hell, he even told me to get fucked, Harry said, albeit a bit embarrassed at the last part. No, he was in all of my classes, Ginny countered. So is he using a time turner? A time turner to get to every class? Do you know how much fucking work that would be? Said Naruto as he jumped over the back of the seat, landing in between Harry and Ron. Ron looked at Naruto and blurted out, what the fuck are you wearing? I know, orange is so my color, isn't it? But shouldn't you be going to your detention? Naruto said, turning to Harry. Yeah, thanks for that, said Harry, but before I go, how are you in all the classes at once? Well, since I will have to send one with you anyway, shadow clone, Naruto said, and then there were two Narutos. The new one was sitting on the table, and in another puff of smoke he had the fox mask and cloak on. See, said the first Naruto. I can be in more place, continues the second. Then one at any one, back to the first one. Time, finished the second Naruto. That's just fucked up, said a bamboozled Ron. So time for you to go, oh and remember, she will make you bleed, I would bet on that, said Naruto with a big grin, as Harry left. So, Ron asked, you're a half-breed? I am now, yes, my DNA mixed with my prisoners, said Naruto. So how did a ninja end up in the wizard world? Asked Hermione. Naruto looked up at her with a sad smile, through a lot of big mistakes. He said, looking down. Harry sat bleeding. It turned out that Naruto was right, and his damn clone would not even come in the room, and sat in the hallway around the first corner hiding from the fucked up psycho bitch who would suck Moldy Ward off if she thought it would get her promoted, or Toad, for short. Harry wanted to know what she had done to him. After 4 hours or so of carving, I will not lie, into his hand he was let out and the clone met him. The clone walked him back to the common room, and when they arrived Ron and Naruto were playing wizard's chess, both thinking so hard that they had their faces were screwed up. The clone puffed out of existence and Naruto tilted his head to the side as if taking information. Come on Harry, let's deal with your hand, Naruto said as he moved a chess piece and then turned to look at Harry. How did you know? Asked Harry. When the clone dies or dispels I see and, to a point, feel everything. Now come give me your hand. Harry did as told and Naruto took his hand and looked at it. Naruto twisted Harry's hand one way then the other and then he leaned in and licked the blood as he reached for his back pocket and pulled out a small bundle of bandages. He gave Harry's hand a small kiss and then wrapped it up tight. He finally turned back to his game of chess. Meanwhile Harry was replaying one sentence over and over in his head, he kissed me, for God's sake it was only on my hand, but he did kiss me. It was odd to have Naruto like this. Harry enjoyed it was great. Naruto was good at hitting Harry just in the right places over and over, and Harry loved it, but when Naruto was like this he also became cold and uncaring. Like the other times similar to today, after they had come Naruto told Harry to leave and went to his desk and sat writing things in the scroll without another word or even a look at Harry. Yes, Naruto could be so cold and it upset Harry more than anything. Naruto sat back in his chair and looked at the closed door Harry had just left by. He thinks I may love him. What a fool, he said with somewhat of a sneer. But you do, don't you, little Naruto? You may not admit it to yourself, but you can't hide from me, my little Naruto, said a low bemused voice. What does it matter? I will work and then leave. He is a fool to love me and a bigger one to think that I would, or want to, stay with him, Naruto said, getting up to look at new letter the Hokage had sent him. My friends are worried about me and they want to see me. They say that it's unfair that 2 weeks after I return I leave again without seeing one of them. More fools to think I care. Again you lie to yourself. You care too much. You can no longer look them in the eye with the thought that they may know what you have done and what you have become. That they might see though all your lies you have hidden behind for so long. Shall we go back and see what you are hiding from? Why you lie to your friends? Friends that would put their lives on the line for you, yet you don't even go to see them after your training trip with Jiraiya. They missed you for 3 years and you them for 6, yet you do everything to hide from them when you go back, acting that they are the one to betray you when it was you who ran away, you who did the betraying. You are the traitor, not you friends, who only want to know that you're okay. It is time you get yourself sorted out, time you stop telling lies, time you accepted that you enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it, Fox. I did what I was told to do and I was tricked into thinking it was the right thing to do. Lies, all lies, my little friend. Sure, you were tricked into it to think the end result was for the best, but you knew it was wrong, and you liked it. You love the blood, the screams as you are. Stop it now. It's not true. Lie to your friends if you like, lie to the Hokage to save your skin by all means, but you can't lie to me. I am a part of you, you can't hide from me. So don't lie to yourself, you enjoyed it. Okay, I admitted I did enjoy it. I loved it, but I will do better now and I will make amends for that what I have done. Then start with caring again instead of pushing everyone away, foolish little Naruto, said the dark voice. Naruto fell asleep on the desk, head in hands, tears running down his face. On Saturday morning it was made even clearer the differences in that of the wizard's world and that of Naruto's when a great eagle came through the window with the owls. It had what looked to be a ministry owl hanging from its mouth and the blood formed the fresh kill still dripping out of his beak and down its front. It stopped in front of Umbridge and dropped its kill on the plate before it took a scroll tied to its right leg out of its case and gave it to the disgusted Umbridge. It quickly picked up the owl and flew off to Naruto, who was about halfway down the hall, and landed on his shoulder, flapping its wings and taping Naruto with its feet. Naruto took a second scroll from the eagle's left leg and looked up at Umbridge. Rose doesn't like being attacked by your owls, Miss Umbridge. Do keep that in mind, won't you? Said Naruto without a sense of an emotion in his low voice. What is in that scroll? Asked Umbridge, seemingly ignoring Naruto's advice. Nothing which concerns you, Naruto said with the same emotionless voice, looking Umbridge in the eyes. I am the High Inquisitor of this school. I have all the rights to demand to know what's in that scroll while you're in this school. I ask again, what is in that scroll? Tell me now. Nothing which concerns you. Everything in this school concerns me. Well, that's not true, for this doesn't concern you, but let's move on to your scroll, shall we? Naruto said as he jumped onto the stage where the teacher's table was. Fine, let's take off that mask of yours, shall we? She said, holding up the scroll. So Naruto did, slowly looking up into Umbridge's eyes. There was an immediate reaction to the action of removing the mask, first that of Umbridge, who screamed in horror, and secondly that of the Slytherins, many of whom had stood up, and Draco had even shouted, Naruto, as he stood. But you should be dead, said an outraged Umbridge. Thousands of times I have seen death and laughed in his face. Do you really think I would be dead? Naruto replied, looking away to the side. I saw your head cut off, Umbridge said, shocked. I survived my friend pulling my heart out, so I reckon I can survive a little decapitation, Naruto smiled. What are you? Shouted Umbridge. A demon, but you knew that, didn't you? Naruto pulled down his collar a little, showing Umbridge the scar around his neck from his decapitation, and laughed at the look of horror before him as he turned and left the hall reading the other scroll. Hermione was so sure Naruto could not find out about this it came as a surprise, because here he sat in front of them at a little table in the hogshead. He had made himself known just after everyone else had left, and had stopped them at the door and coaxed them back to the table. Can we help you, Fox-san? Asked Hermione, looking at that grueling fox mask of his. It's a dangerous game you're playing, Hermione. It will be bad when you're caught, said Naruto, taking off his mask, looking at them with calculating eyes. "We won't be caught, and even if we are, what's the worst that could happen?" "Detentions?" said Hermione, sure of herself. The other two, Ron and Harry, who was not in the best of moods with Naruto having not talked to him since the other night, sat and watched, waiting to see the outcome with Naruto and Hermione. "Maybe that's true for you, but look at the bigger picture, would you? This is just the thing Umbridge is looking for, to overthrow Dumbledore. I can't believe I'm talking about military conquest and overthrow and school headmaster. It's stupid but true enough. If you're caught, know when you're caught, no matter what, you can be sure that they will use it against me and Dumbledore," Naruto said, looking each one in the eyes. "How will they link us to you and Dumbledore?" asked Ron, speaking for the first time. "Oh, they'll find a way. Now, I admit that I could stop that from happening, but I believe you should see the consequences of your actions when they come about. So I'll be taking this then," said Naruto, lifting the piece of parchment up. "How did you get that?" asked Hermione defensively as she quietly looked through her bag to make sure it wasn't a trick. "I nicked it out of your bag, but don't worry, it will be perfectly safe with me. I can protect it in a way you can't even imagine. Now if you will excuse me, I must be off." He put his mask back on and then Naruto was gone in a puff of smoke. "Did you see his eyes?" asked Hermione. "What about them?" countered Ron. "He's been crying," answered Harry. "That's just what I thought, but why?" said Hermione. "Who knows, maybe he got some bad news from home," Ron said, clearly not that concerned. Hermione found her way to the painting in the common room, the one which would take her to the room Naruto sleeps and lives in, and as if on demand it opened for her as she entered the dark room. It was clear that Naruto was sitting on the bed, his back leaning on the headboard, topless. His left leg was bent up so that he could rest his left elbow on his knee. In his hand was a cigarette, and Hermione could not deny that Naruto looked pretty hot, nor could she shop her blush. The end on the cigarette glowed as he took a drag. "What do I own the pleasure of your company this evening, little Hermione?" he asked while patting the space on the bed by him. This was a very different Naruto, one which seemed much, much older. "I wish to talk to you," said Hermione, sitting at the end of the bed. "Is it true what they say, are you a former Death Eater?" "Why, of course I was, little Hermione." There was something in his eyes which told Hermione that there may be danger for her in this room. "Why did you change sides? Why were you a Death Eater in the first place? You don't seem to be that sort of person," asked Hermione, checking her path to the door in case she had to make a fast exit. This was not the Naruto she was used to. He normally had a sort of good feel to him, which gave him a light heart aura, even when he was in his mask, but now that was gone and it left a darker Naruto. The door shut and locked. Hermione jumped up facing Naruto, who just took another drag. "Don't worry about the door too much, you wouldn't have made it that far. As for your second question, to kill filthy mud bloods, that's an easy enough answer," Naruto chuckles, as Hermione's eyes widened in fear. Now, little Hermione, Dumbledore wouldn't have hired me if I posed any danger to the students, now would he?" Naruto finished his fag and put in the ashtray. But why would you want to kill Muggle-borns so much?" Naruto moved down so that he lay down on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Hermione, guessing that she wasn't going to die anytime soon, sat down at the desk and watched Naruto think for a minute or two. "I was never the smart person, Hermione." His voice was calm and mellow. Any danger there might have been was now gone. "I respect those who are smart over most people. I have a friend back home, he's a genius, and if he told me to do anything, even jump off a cliff, I would. After all, he's smart and he probably knows something I have overlooked. Of course this meant that I can be easily led, which is okay if I'm back home. I know what's right and wrong, and can tell who's best to follow, but I ran away. I was upset and needed some time to myself. A small little holiday would do, a weekend or a week at most. It was 2.5 years before I was taken back home in disgrace, with my head low, my hands bound behind my back, and an escort of Aurors and Dumbledore dragging me. The look of shame and pain on the Hokage's face was enough to kill me." "Who is the Hokage?" asked Hermione. "The leader of my village, and the closest thing to a mother I have ever had. She has done a lot for me, even hid the fact I ran away by saying I was on a training trip, only to have me get a march through the village, with a force of people holding on to metal poles attached to a collar. At least Dumbledore allowed me to wear a hood," Naruto sighed. "Back onto the point, I came to England. This is where I ran to. It was new and weird. What was right in my home may be wrong here and vice versa, but I didn't think about that. As I said, I wasn't planning to stay that long. It was clear that I didn't fit in with the muggles, and so as you may suspect I was picked up by a wizard. He was nice to me and smart, and so I followed him home and he told me everything about the world as he saw it and I believed him. The only problem was that this man was a Death Eater. His views were somewhat twisted. I knew long before I admitted it to myself that what I was doing was wrong, but I clung to this man and did as I was told. I had by that point lost any will to think for myself. It was nice not needing to think about things. I became nothing but a doll for his son and an assassin for him, and I liked it, but at last I couldn't bear doing wrong anymore once I was forced to admit to myself that he was evil. I could no longer stay and had to think for myself once again. So you killed for this man, but why would you come here? Surely your Hokage would want to keep you where she can see you herself. Pay back. I have done a lot of harm to your world, Hermione, and so I must do something to help it. It's as simple as that. So what was it that changed? What was it that forced you to see what was right? Why did you have to ask? Well, I suppose you would. I was sent to kill one of Harry Potter's friends. What? It did seem most odd for me, so I decided to spy on her. Remember that to me I was fighting a war, so someone who was Harry's friend was seen as a key member, so I thought I could get some useful info. So I spied, I read her diary, I know all of her secrets and desires. I followed her around for a week sitting on her bed as she slept, but all I saw was a teen girl, no war plans. Hermione had a sinking feeling. She knew who it was. Who it should be, but she needed to know. Who was it? She asked, looking to the floor. However, she felt a hand on her chin and Naruto looked her straight in the eyes and said, "It was you. I was sent to kill you." Naruto sat back with a gentle smile, lying down again. How does that make you feel, little Hermione? It's quite a shock, no? Don't worry about it though, it was all in the past. You read my diary but surely you forgot most of it, right? Asked Hermione, hopeful. Unfortunately no, I have a photographic memory. Naruto was tapping his head as he said it. Oh God, said Hermione, becoming red as a tomato. You've seen me naked. Would it make you feel better if I said I left the room at those sorts of times? Did you? Asked Hermione, once again hopeful. No, I even watched when you masturbated. You perv, Hermione said while standing up with a look of outrage. Don't worry too much because women don't really do it for me, plus I sealed that away from my memory. Most of that week I can only remember that I did it, but I don't really remember what happened. Is that what you did to the students at the school? Hermione decided that it was time to change subject. It will take time to come to terms with what she just heard, but that would have to come later. She need more info. What do you mean? You were hit with the killing curse and yet no one has questioned this. Most don't even remember it even happened. Well yes, what it is an illusion, you see. It works by stopping people from thinking of it. It's not that they don't remember, it's just they overlook it. They know it happened but don't see it as important. So how come I do think about it? Because of the very nature of an illusion, it is a fight between my mind and yours. Once the illusion is set, it takes something big to dislodge it, but that's only if I win the fight. To simply put it, your brain is better than mine, so are most of the others. I won mostly because they didn't know they were fighting. It helps a lot, but there are still maybe 100 or so people who the illusion didn't work on. Naruto sat up and stood on the opposite side of the bed to Hermione. Now I'm sure that you would prefer not to be near me, and I will keep that space if you wish. I'm sure you have some work to do, so please don't let me keep you. There, one last thing. What is Harry to you? A job, and that is it. Shut it. The last bit was said with a sharp head turn and to himself. What was that? Hermione could feel the anger in his voice. Nothing, my dear. After all, who can play around with the dark arts and expect to keep their sanity? Naruto smiled. Now if you go, little Hermione. Hermione walked to the door. As she reached for the doorknob, she looked back over her shoulder and said, I don't believe you, and if you hurt him then I will never forgive you. With that she was gone out to think over some things. There was a lot to come to terms with. Forgiveness, like I deserve such kindness. Naruto sighed quietly after she was gone. And yet you will get it, wanted or not. There is not a person in this world or the next which won't forgive who. You just have that charm about you, like a kick puppy. You're not helping. By order of the High Inquisitor of Hogwarts, all student organizations, societies, teams, groups and clubs are henceforth disbanded. Hermione was looking at the newest educational decree, Decree number 24. It would seem there is a rat in your little army, would there not? Hermione turned to face the blonde teen that had arrived behind her without a sound. Well, it may just be coincidence, she countered. No, mark my words, she knows you had a meeting but she doesn't know what you're up to yet and now she's watching. Be smart, think before you do anything and keep it low, don't keep it to one day at one time. Mix it up a bit, don't talk to anyone involved. Find some other way to communicate. Try not to be caught, Naruto said. He did not look pleased. Well, if someone at the meeting told Umbridge, we'll know who they are and they will really regret it, Hermione said grimly. Good, be careful. Oh, and I hope that what was said yesterday stay with us. I should tell Harry when he asks. As long as you tell Harry, everyone else will hear the rumors and they will find out the truth whether I tell them or not. If you don't want people to know, why tell me? Asked Hermione. You deserve to know as it involved you, end of story. With that, Naruto was off walking amongst the other teens. Since his demasking, he was no longer seen as an adult. This meant that a lot of students started to talking to him and he had made some more friends, but it also meant he lost some of his office due to some people not wanting to be told what to do by someone who was the same age or younger. Hermione could not help but note that since their little talk Naruto didn't make her feel weird, there was no guilt, no hate, it was all just gone. So Hermione smiled. It was time to think and plan out her and the army, as Naruto called it, next move. That was the start of a bad day by all means. In the first lesson, Hedwig arrived injured, which didn't do much to uplift Harry. Then Neville almost got into a fight with Draco. This severed to annoy Harry as Naruto broke it up with a look to Draco. One not of hate but almost love, and to top that off, Draco just ducked his head and obeyed. Umbridge had been in potions and without even being in divination she managed to make that hell. On to top it all off, there was no Quidditch practice but extra potions. As Harry sat there working away in a haze of sadness and hatred, he happened to look up as the portrait of the fat lady opened up only to see the pale blonde hair of Draco Malfoy, at the epitome of a Slytherin in their common room. Most of the Gryffindor stood up on the defense. Malfoy not looking at anyone because he didn't like his situation any better than the Gryffindors. It was Naruto entering the room next that lessened the tension because everyone there knew that Naruto was able to stop anything that might have happened. He walked to his painting and opened it and let Malfoy in first and gave a look around the common room, which reminded the Gryffindors that there were things they were doing before Malfoy came and that they should continue with them. However, he did not quite reach Harry, shifting so that he didn't look Harry in the eye. It had been that way since the rumors of him being a Death Eater had gotten around, sped by the Slytherins, and those most unsavory things that Umbridge had said about him. However, that had made him more liked by the majority of the students. After all, if Umbridge hated him, how bad could he be? But saying that, it was still enough to make them wary of him. They all said he was a child killer, and one that had tortured his victims, even if it was hard to believe when looking at the cute childlike face. With that smile with lit up even the darkest of places, it was still something to think about. Harry did not like this and he could feel the jealousy boiling up inside of him. Draco was in that room, locked away with his Naruto. No, today was a bad day, and Harry's hatred for Malfoy grew stronger and darker than ever before. Kai, she exclaimed, and there was a puff of smoke. The smoke cleared to leave Naruto standing there, with his fists clenched and his jaw shook. His lips were back to black, his eyes were once again silted, his long, furry fox-like ears twitching. And there was a long, furry red and black foxtail sticking up along his back. Much better, she said, and Naruto helped her into her seat, eyes still filled with anger. Now go have fun with your friend, brat, she said as she leaned forward, joining her hands and resting her elbows on the table. Naruto's body went limp and his tail fell between his legs. As you wish, Hokage-sama, Naruto answered, and went to stand with his friends. Dumbledore explained that the four adults were here to talk with the Ministry of Magic and the others were here to spend time with Naruto. They were also going to spend the time learning of the wizard culture and teaching the students about their own. Right, said Naruto as he glared at his friends, not a word. I will tell you later. There's a lot to explain, and Dumbledore reckons it'd be best for you to wander around a little and speak to different people. Heads up, the green and silver are Slytherin. If you want to find an enemy here, that's where you find them. Next is Ravenclaw, smart people. They will jump at the chance to learn from you and to teach you everything you could need to know. Then there's Hufflepuff, nervous but friendly. They'd be the ones hesitating at first, but once one is your friend, you have a friend for life. And last is Gryffindor, the red and gold, and they're the house of those who are loyal. They'll also jump at the chance to meet you, if just to prevent you from talking to Slytherin. I say table 1, he continued, nodding at the Slytherin table, is like Sasuke. The second is like Shikamaru. Only not as lazy. The third is like Hinata and the fourth is like an entire house of mini Narutos and Kibas, if you catch my drift. He finished, looking at his friends. Right. I'll be over by my charge if you need me. With that, Naruto turned and left for Harry. Isn't it odd? Said Ino as she came to sit by Shikamaru, who had sat at the Slytherin table since none of them bothered him. He looks quite feminine with his long hair, doesn't he? All 10 of them had been thrilled with this mission since it gave them an opportunity to see their long-lost friend Naruto. The mission was a simple one. Sit around in a school for a month tops talking with Naruto. It was so simple Shikamaru would have jumped at it if he wasn't so lazy. His teammates Ino and Choji had jumped at the chance to come to see the missing blonde along with Tenten. Of course, it was fair to say that the blonde's teammate Sakura and his crush Hinata were the most excited by the mission. This excitement was closely followed by Rock Lee and Kiba, who shouted something like how he was going to show Naruto how much stronger he was now. Looking at Naruto now with his white arm guards and that Anbu mask, Shikamaru had to wonder just how much Naruto had grown up so much that he outranked them. And as for the last 2 ninja, well then may not have show any feeling, but even their cold hearts softened on the sight that was Naruto. The 2 ninja being Nie and Shino. He always was quite feminine when he thought no one was looking. Replied Shikamaru, sitting with his head in his arms. He had once gone to fetch Naruto for the Hokage to find him cooking. He was wearing a corset, some stockings and a G-string covered only by a pink apron. Naruto did that, oh dear I've been caught thing. He had his leg kick up behind him and his head snapped around to look at Shikamaru, but oddly once Naruto saw it was him, he didn't seem to care. The whole thing made the meeting with the Hokage uncomfortable for Shikamaru since he knew what Naruto was wearing under that orange jumpsuit of his. He seems thinner too. Ino sat looking over at Naruto with her back to the table. Shall I get to your point for you, Ino pig? Asked Sakura, who had come to sit on the opposite side of Shikamaru. The fox, was it the influence to these changes? No idea. Just what the Hokage said, shame and failure. One assumes he has failed to keep the 2 souls inside him apart. Something happened. He's more serious than I've ever seen him. Sakura said, turning to look at Ino. It not right. Absolutely. Ino nodded. He's nervous. He doesn't want us here, that much is easy to see. Added the ever-sleepy Shikamaru. Don't be ridiculous. Why would he not want us? Asked Ino. Think about it. Who, out of us, has he said hi to? Said Shikamaru getting up. No one but Hokage, and the only reason he did so was to test to see where he stood. He's too calculating for his own good. Thinking back even farther from when he came home after 2.5 years, he was home for only 3 months. I only saw him once during that time. How many times did you see him, Sakura? A lot, said Sakura defensively, not including times when he was forced to. Twice, Sakura admitted, crestfallen. You see? He's not the same Naruto. He's so nervous that he forgot his mask. Something is up and I don't think it'll be long until we find out. I doubt we'll like it, but we'll just have to remember to tell Naruto that it doesn't affect anything. Sighed Shikamaru. But what if it really that bad? Asked Ino. We'll tell him it doesn't affect anything, then when we get home we'll talk it out and make sure that by the time he gets back it's all forgotten. Then it will really mean nothing. Why would you let her do that to you? Moaned Harry as Naruto was sitting next to him. She's the Hokage. She has worked all her life to get that kind of respect. Besides that, she's also the closest thing I have ever had to a mother. I, on the other hand, have brought dishonor to the village, lost all respect I had, and I have both shamed and disappointed her. Said Naruto, poking at a bowl of ramen which appeared as he sat down. She can talk to me however she darn well pleases. But still, she treated you like dirt. Harry grumbled on. If it wasn't for her, I would be dirt. Now leave it, snapped Naruto. Why so harsh on the little brat? Said Anko. She was wearing a fishnet bodysuit and tanned coat. Maybe not harsh enough, said the ever-grumpy Hokage. Now my good lady. We all know you forgave him before you even knew, said the ever-smiling Dumbledore. He doesn't have to know that, replied the Hokage. Indeed, though, said Kakashi, the masked man, as he leaned forward to look around Dumbledore. Why was I not informed of his rise to Anbu? Whether he is Anbu or not is dependent on this mission. He could go back to being a genin if I think it would be best. The fifth said. It seems, said the unfamiliar voice of Guy, that our Naruto has lost some of his youthfulness. This simple statement seemed to hit the spot too well in Kakashi's eyes. It can be hard to watch your students grow, to make the same mistakes as everyone else, and rewarding when they step into the light as you yourself did. Said Dumbledore. Kakashi had to think that although Guy and this Dumbledore man may say things in odd ways, they were undeniably wise. It was late as the students started to leaving out of the Great Hall to their dorms. Naruto was standing at the door, watching the students. The roamers had had enough of an effect that many students from all of the house reacted unfavorably to Naruto. The Slytherin house openly sneer and showed their hate at what they saw as a traitor. Well, many in the other houses show in little ways that they feared or distrusted their guard, and this was painfully easy to see to his old friends as they watched from afar. Please excuse me, Lady Tsunade, but I will have to leave it up to Naruto to take you to your rooms. I have some work to do before I retire for the night. That is fine, Dumbledore-sama, said the Hokage as she walked toward the hall's doors. She arrived just as Harry, Ron and Hermione, who had taken to walking back with Naruto after dinner, were leaving. Naruto was telling them that he would meet them later as she walked by, cutting in with, "No, bring them with us." "As you wish. Come this way then, up to the top we go." Naruto was not lying. There walk up the many ever-moving stairs to the very top floor on which the rooms had been prepared. The rooms themselves had been set around a large common room and a fireplace. It was undeniably grand with a beautiful ceiling and long flowing curtains. "Well, I'm going to bed," said the Hokage and then looked toward Naruto. "Naruto, everything, leave nothing out," she said as she walked to her room at the end of the hallway. "Shouldn't you also stay and listen too?" asked the man with one eye. "Nope, I already listened, I do not wish to hear it again," she said, slamming the door. "Doesn't know the word gentle, does she?" said Naruto, looking after her. "You've done something rather bad to make her act like this, though," said the man with one eye as he took a seat in a chair looking at Naruto. "Unless I'm wrong." Naruto looked away from him, refusing to look him in the eye. "I'll take that as a no." "Sit, Naruto, it's time you told us what you've been up to for the last 3 years," he said, giving a signal for the others to sit down. Naruto took off his Anbu cloak, armor and his right glove along with his shirt and pulled down his pants for them to settle low on his hips, revealing what many had thought of the area where there must be pale skin, instead showing sun-kissed, golden brown skin. Again bring up the question, just how did Naruto's son bathe? "Well, where to begin then?" said Naruto, sitting on the floor with his back to the fire, looking out to the others who were starting to sit in a semi-circle around him. "Well, Naruto, how about the fox?" said Kakashi, the masked man. "Not much to tell really. The fox and I made a deal that I get his power and he gets as much freedom the seal allows him to have. My mind is his playground now. He can be in any scenario he wants to be in, simple and unimportant. I feel it may be of some importance. It will affect the way the village will see you. They have just come to the point in which they no longer think you are the demon. But then you go and make a deal with him. Any trust you have fought for could be lost within a minute," said Kakashi, his voice one of concerned anger. "I'm sure the Hokage won't make me walk around like this. Plus, the fox has never done any harm to me," said Naruto, closing his eyes and sighing. "Naruto," said Guy, "that fox destroyed half the village. He killed hundreds." Naruto sighed again. "It wasn't that fox that called me names. It wasn't that fox that spat at me, that threw stuff at me, that wrecked my house over and over again, who chased me in mobs, who hit me, beat me, slit my throat and left me in a pool of my own blood." Naruto's voice got harsher and harsher with each statement, and then became so quiet his last statement was also a whisper. "It was never the fox who raped me." Naruto opened his eyes slowly, eyes which were as cold as ice. "It was the fox who patched up my broken body, who sealed away the bad memory, who whispered comforting words in my ear as I cried myself to sleep while wrapping my body up in his soft warm tails." "Indeed," said Anko, the others being in way too much shock to form any words. "I always did wonder how you keep loyalty to the village." Anko was an Anbu and the Anbu were very protective of Naruto. They spotted any harm befalling him and more than likely had killed anyone who did harm him. Kakashi did the same. However, every Anbu knew that more than half slipped through the net. The Anbu checked Naruto when and where they could. mostly finding him beaten and bloody, and usually too late for him. Very few times were they able to help. Naruto laughed. It sounded wrong, mocking. Loyal to the village? I was never loyal to the village. Oh dear snake, Anko's Enbu name, I hated the village. I would have left earlier, but I stayed for the third. I have been loyal to him and only him. It was for him that I didn't kill any of them, though I would love to. It was for him I stay in that village. Naruto sighed again, looking at the mortified faces in front of him. The people who were his friends. He gave a small, sad smile. I suppose he was right to ask me to stay in the village. As you said, Kakashi. The village as a whole is warming up to me and I have friends now. He looked at each one of them when speaking. I now have new people to be loyal for. You guys, the 5th Hokage, Iruka, Jiraiya. The list is ever growing. Naruto looked down, more upset than before. I haven't been doing a very good job at it so far. What do you mean, Naruto? You've always been here for us, said Sakura. She could see how hard this was on Naruto. She had to try and give him some comfort. Jiraiya didn't take me on a training trip. It was a simple sentence which meant nothing to the wizarding trio, but it had meant everything for the ninja. He told me before you left that that's what he planned to do the day after you left, said Kakashi, already guessing where this was going, seeing the direction of this conversation. Then Naruto confirmed it by saying, "Yep, he told you about it." He then made his way over to tell me ironically, I found out when I returned that as he was walking to the hospital, I was sneaking over the wall to leave the village. Maybe never to return again. I just ran and ran. I had left a note to tell the Hokage I would only be away for a couple of days, a week at most, but I simply never did turn around to go back. I just kept going farther away, and I somehow ended up here, in England, said Naruto, a quiet Naruto. Quieter than any had ever seen. But Jiraiya left at the same time as you did? Asked Kakashi. Yes. He thought he would catch me with ease and simply continue with my training trip. It was only after the 2.5 years after I was brought back to the Hokage by Dumbledore that we met again. He was summoned as soon as I was back, to fake my return so the council wouldn't ask too many unwanted questions, said Naruto, once again shutting his eyes, trying to meditate. Is it just something about me that made all my teammates run away? Said a distraught Sakura. Maybe, but I think you were just unlucky to get teamed up with 2 depressed and mentally unstable boys, replied Naruto, who sat in front of them breathing slowly, eyes still closed. But why? Asked Hinata. You had worse things happen to you than what Sasuke did? I had just gotten him where I wanted him, then he left without a word. What do you mean where you wanted him? Asked Sakura. Naruto did not answer. He seemed to be waiting for the next question, ignoring that one. When I went to find Naruto for that mission, he was in bed, answered Shikamaru on Naruto's behalf, but it wasn't his bed I found him in, it was Sasuke's. What? Exclaimed Ino. Naruto tilted his head back, opening his eyes to look at the ceiling. It was the first time we did it as lovers. Before that night, it had just been woe. While it had been just for need. Only Kakashi and Anko knew what he was going to say and it hurt. It was a sour point to most Anbu. So you got here, Naruto, then what? If this was the end of your run, why not head back? Asked Kakashi, knowing that it was time to change the subject. Naruto looked back at them and then once again closed his eyes. I was picked up by a man. He fed me and put a roof over my head, and for once I did not need to think. I became his tool as a true ninja. I did as I was told and he rewarded me with food and shelter. He then gave my body to his son and I had a new reward, to pleasure his son, said the too calm Naruto. What? You don't mean you fucked some man just because you were told to? Snapped Kiba, more in shock at the way Naruto was acting than what he said. Though, what he said was pretty shocking in itself. I used to whore my body out back at home to pay the rent. The only difference is that there it was only one lad, and not just whoever was willing to pay. Sighed Naruto, opening his eyes again, though not looking at anything. I was his mind, body and soul. I was never happier than back then. So why come back? Ino said, thinking about how she hated it when Shikamaru was right. He had said it was going to be bad. I knew what he asked me to do was wrong. I knew it was way before I was willing to admit to it. You mean the selling your body to him, right? Asked Kakashi, knowing he was wrong, but still with some hope. No, I have never had a problem with selling my body. It was needed to serve some purposes. No, it was the killing which was wrong, even if he did say they were all filth and dirt. He told me that they were trying to take over and put the pure bloods into servitude. So they had to die. Said Naruto, eyes glazed over. Who? Asked Shikamaru. Who had to die? Naruto did not answer for some time, until Hermione answered for him, Muggle-borns. She said, Who? Asked Kakashi. People like me who come from non-wizarding families, said Hermione, looking at Naruto with a new understanding. Yes, said Naruto. The filth dirty mud bloods. You know, it was 5 years in the magical world before I even work out that mud blood wasn't the commonly used term. And the man was Lucius Malfoy. Said Hermione. Yes, and who is he? Sighed Kakashi. A Death Eater, the follower of the Dark Lord, a Muggle hater, etc., replied Naruto. And you killed for him? Asked Sakura, looking horrified. Not at first. I was used to get information. Malfoy wanted the dirt on everyone since knowledge is power. If he had everybody's dark secrets, then he could control them. Said Naruto. On one mission, I was caught, so I killed the man without thinking, and so Malfoy had another way to use me. He stared a reign of terror. However, since the minister hid it away and Dumbledore helped them to keep it quiet, it didn't really spread that much terror. Naruto looked at Sakura. Oh, come of it, Sakura. If you were told to kill someone by the Hokage, then you would. But Naruto, these are civilians. Argued Ino. Killing them was merciful compared to what I did before I killed them. What do you mean? How can killing someone be merciful? Snapped Harry. I always wish I was dead afterwards. I begged to be killed, but I'm a bit harder to kill than most. Said Naruto. No, Naruto, you didn't. How could you? Asked a horrified Kakashi. It was really easy. I unlocked the memory I hid away so long ago one by one, and then I carried them out to the ladder. Said Naruto. It was hard at first. They screams scared me, but I learned to stand it. Then I came to love it. Their screams were like music. If I had to suffer as I had at the hand of village, then these kids had to suffer at mine. You said I was going to be your 7th birthday. What would you have done to me? Hermione was probably the only one who could talk, mostly due to the need to know what he would have done. I can't really say. The memories are locked away. I could open it, but last time I cried for 3 hours, so I doubt it would be of any use to you tonight. Said the hollow-sounding Naruto. I can't tell you everything, but I can tell you everything you would want to know. Said Kakashi. If I may, Naruto? Whatever. I can't remember it anyway, so it never happened to me, right? Said Naruto. I was on my way back from a mission, and since I was passing by Naruto's flat anyway, I stopped by just to look through the window to make sure he was safe. I found 30 men and women in his flat. I won't sugarcoat it, they were raping him. They even had their children with them, teaching them that it was fun to hate and torture Naruto. Kakashi stopped to let this sink in. Needless to say, I took care of the problem. I remember the blood. There was so much, I was leave to clean it up. I never did quite get it out of the bed sheet. Said Naruto, looking off into space. You killed them, said Anko. So that why you were forced to leave Anbu? Yes. The Hokage thought that after killing 30 or so men, women and children, I should take some time off. Said Kakashi. Naruto, sighed Sakura, her arms pulled tight to her chest. Anyway, said Naruto, he reached downward for his fox mask to hide his face. I will leave you to take this in. I need to go to bed. If there's anything else you need to know, you can ask me tomorrow. Come on you three, let's go. Naruto was no longer the hollow Naruto, he was Fox. A cold Anbu like any other. Well, that was enlightening, said Shikamaru once the door had shut. To say the least, said a worn-out Ino. It's odd how words can affect people. I just don't know what to think, said Sakura. She had pulled her legs tight to her chest, leaning her head on her knees. Gut-wrenching, isn't it? Said the sharp voice of the Hokage, standing behind them. To think that out of all of us, Naruto would be the worst person we knew. Kakashi went to say something in return, but was cut off. Don't bother defending him, Kakashi. Would you defend Sasuke's crimes, or even your only, even though they are not half as bad? No, the problem here is that no one can seem to find it in their heart to blame him in the first place. Because of that, he's lost. He has not received punishment, and you are the only punishment I could give him. You will always know you will be the best of friends. It will just go back to the way it was, but you will always know, and he will always know that you know. You will never be able to look at him in just the same way again. Don't you think you're being a bit harsh? Said Sakura. He was her teammate, she had to defend him. Harsh, you say? He left the village that a death penalty, 400 count of murder, rape and torture, if he was lucky, 10,000 year in prison, 25 forever murder. It's more likely he'll be looking at 401 death penalties. I think I've been quite lenient, said the Hokage as she turned back to her room, shutting the door behind her. It was a silent walk back to the Gryffindor common room, and as they left Naruto to go to the dorm, Hermione hung back. Will you be alright, Naruto? Yes, of course, little Hermione, said the fox mask, staring at her. Hermione remembered the night in which Naruto had first called her little Hermione, and oddly, she had to smile. It was a dark night when Hermione's scream filled the air. She had awoken to find a man standing at the end of her bed, and she knew she was in trouble. The white bone mask shaped as a skull and the black cloak which was left open, showing his muscles, was proof of that. It was also the opened cloak that told her that the young Death Eater was male. Well, hello there, little Hermione. Could you keep it down though? Don't want to wake your parents, now do you? The Death Eater said, just standing there, seemingly waiting for something or someone as he looked from her to the door and back again. Why are you here? She said as she sat up and backed herself up to the headboard, away from the Death Eater. Don't concern yourself with me, I'm not all that important, he said, walking over to her window, pulling the curtain back, revealing a green glow. What going on out there? What that glow? The dark mark, the boy said, as he took off his mask. The boy was about her age. He was cute looking with blonde hair and blue eyes. Hermione had to say it was hard to believe he was a Death Eater, not because of his good looks, but the smile and innocence in those blue eyes. It was hard to believe that he could be evil. The boy made his way to her dresser and put what looked like a letter and a purse. What are those? The boy turned to look at her. A map and some money, he said, once again going to check the window. I must be going now, but I thank you for your company, little Hermione. I thank you, but I must be going. The boy seemed nervous, but before she could ask more, there were noises from downstairs and the boy put his mask back on as the door flew open. Two spells hit one another in the middle of the room as several men and women came through the door headed by Dumbledore. The boy back flipped through the closed window. Stay here and watch her, said Dumbledore, now running out the door and down the stairs. As Dumbledore arrived on the street, he saw the Death Eater standing at an ally some ways down the road. Dumbledore turned and started to walk towards the young man. As he did, the man turned and walked down the ally. Dumbledore caught up to the man halfway down the ally. The Death Eater stood there, watching Dumbledore come to stop close to him. There was a lamp in the ally, so the Death Eater had stood at one end of the pool of light and Dumbledore stopped at the other end. Good night to you, Dumbledore. The boy, for Dumbledore could tell that the voice was that of a child's. You are acting rather out of character tonight, said Dumbledore, looking at the Death Eater's wand which was out, but pointed to the floor. This said that the Death Eater would fight if need be, but was hoping not to. What is your name, child? Asked Dumbledore, taking the risk to put his own wand away. The boy seemed to like this. He relaxed somewhat and put his wand away. My name is Naruto, the boy said as he took off his mask. I would like to speak to you tonight, Dumbledore. I see. What is it that you wish to discuss with me, Naruto? The boy looked upward to the sky. I have a feeling that I have been tricked. I know I haven't got the biggest brain, but I thought I was smarter than this. Naruto sighed. You may have guessed, but I don't come from around here. I come from very different place. I am sure you will see that for yourself soon enough. Why? For what reason should I go there for? Asked Dumbledore, trying to work out the boy in front of him. This time Hermione lives, but only because I want her to. I really do. But the next time we meet I will kill her and anyone in my way. The next time I meet her, it will be in Hogwarts and I will kill until I am killed. I think it is best that you find someone which can guard your students and kill me, said Naruto. I failed to see why. If you don't want to kill Hermione, then don't. Why don't you come with me? We could go back to your home together. Surely you have friend and family back home who are worried about you. No, I have no family and I wish to die before my friend know my shame. My village used to call me a monster and I have devoted my life to change that. I have always tried to do what right and true, but now I have failed rather miserably, haven't I? I am nothing more than a monster. Naruto looked down with a lost look flooding his blue eyes. How can I look my friend in the eye? But what of your friends? Wouldn't they be saddened by your death? Come Naruto. If you no longer want part of this, let us help you. You can return to your village. You are young, don't let one mistake ruin your life. You have much to give the world," said Dumbledore, raising his arm out, trying to bring Naruto towards him. Naruto's left foot shifted towards Dumbledore, longing within his eyes for Dumbledore's offer. "It an executional punishment to run away from my village, and then there the dark arts. They left their mark on me. My mind is not what it used to be, Dumbledore," said the young, lost boy. "Come Naruto, come with me. It will be all right, I will see to it. Naruto, you can just come with me, leave it all to me." "Come with me," said Dumbledore, waving his hand. Naruto took a step forward. "I don't know, Then Naruto all but ran the last 5 or 6 step. He threw his arms around the old man, crying uncontrollably into his chest. Dumbledore wrapped his arm around the small shaking frame. "My dear boy." Naruto woke up looking at the eye above him. "What do you want?" Naruto was never real a morning person. "It hard to acknowledge one's own mistake, and important to fix them," said Kakashi. "It's stupidity not to realizes one's mistake for 6 years. Relay Naruto getting up and slipping of his boxer. He was used to striping himself for the fun of other men. "Stupidity is not a sin, Naruto," smiled Kakashi, a bit upset that the boy should be so wonderful in being naked with others. "Denial is," replied Naruto, going into the ensuite to have a shower. "We have all been misled, Naruto," said Kakashi, sitting on the toilet reading his book, or more like watching how Naruto's tail swayed. "I knew the truth way before I killed anyone, it was just easier to ignore it. Don't try to justify my action to myself," Naruto said. And to Kakashi horror, Naruto put his left hand on the wok for support, and with his right hand he stared to rub his tail. "Well, yes, you have done wrong, but we can't forget that you hadn't had a great life the village. Don't blame the villager, they were foolish and scared. What do you think would happen?" Naruto interrupted while rubbing his tail a little faster. It to really disturb Kakashi to know how uncaring Naruto was when it came to this sort of thing. "No, if you to blame anyone, blame yourself." Naruto was forced to stop his rant as he came raver exposely, in Kakashi eyes at last, into the shower. He was left panting for a second or two before staring to clean up. The villager were inganut to the truth. "What about you? What your excuse? The Anbu were always late, Jiraiya. My own godfather left too much of a coward to face me to take me in. Tsunade my godmother running from one place to another making diet. Blame my goddamn father for putting the damned thing in me, and my mother for being so weak dying giving birth." Naruto had got out and stared to trying off. "Naruto," sighed Karke at the bitterness in the young boy's voice. Naruto raped the towel around his hip, tail out, and sat on Kakashi's lap, resting his head on the man's shoulder, arm raped around the neck. "My father did what he had to, my mother had little choice in her death. Jiraiya and Tsunade could not deal being in the village after the war. And you and the Anbu try your beast, it just wasn't good enough. It just the way things happen, and this is the result of broken and used boy. We just have to deal with and do the best we can, right? You were always the braves one," said Kakashi as he gave Naruto a little squeeze. And Naruto got up to finish trying off, smiling safe and happy in the knowledge that he had left a big enough wet patch on Kakashi's lap. The next day went normal enough. The older Sinorb left to go to the talk being held at the Minotauri, and the younger lot went from class to class, sitting quietly in the back. In 1 or 2 class they were asked to come down and slow some of their own magic, which was similar. It became clear to all how their mind worked very quickly every spell they did. Their point out all the way it could help in a battle or be beaten in a battle. Naruto walked around doing his normal rounds. As the day was closing, Naruto made his way to Harry. "Harry, can I have a word in private, please?" Harry nodded and followed him into his little room. "What do you want?" said Harry, sitting on the bed. "I think that we should stop this fooling around. I can't keep this up with you anymore. I should have never stared it in the first place. It will never work," said Naruto, not looking at Harry. "Why not? Why would it not work? Don't you love me even a little?" asked Harry. "I will be going home at the end of the year. I can't say I'll be back, and you're not going back with me." "Why can't I go back with you? We could live happily enough. You would be killed by someone or another. There's no way I will allow you to come. It is far too dangerous for you." "I can defend myself," said the defensive Harry. Harry felt the cold metal pass his neck, the borp of blood running down his neck, the warm breath of Naruto on the back of his neck. "If this was an enemy, you would have just died, and 'cause I would be by your side trying to make sure you're safe, I would get killed, or worst my friend would die. Then train me, teach me to befriend myself. Train you? I could, but then think about it, you would have no job. Even if I train you, you might never be good enough to be a ninja here. Thought you be a Aro, and you could easily become quite a high one too. Then your friend there here, you would have to leave them. I'm a wizard, I can work here in life wherever I want, I can just pop here and there. Naruto was now looking at him full calculating eye, liking his lip. Training wouldn't be ease, I would push you. If it's so I can stay with you. It is not up to me, I will bring it up with the Hokage, but it will be up to her, her decision. Right, that a good way of getting out of it, isn't it? You can't be trained without her say so. If she said I can train you, we're fine, if not I will simply not take you with me. Okay then, but that means you love me, right? If you're willing to train me, right? Maybe, I do like you, but in all fairness I have fallen in love with quite a few men, all of which have done nothing but hurt me, he said looking down. Let's just forget about that and have a fun night. Naruto had that red glint in his eyes again. Harry awoke some hour later. He didn't move as he could hear voices. Do you love him? Said the voice that Harry reorganized as the Hokage stuff one. He opened his eye to see that the Hokage sat on the end of the bed. She had Naruto standing in front of her, facing away for her as she brushed his hair. I think so, I mean why not, said Naruto. He wouldn't last very long in a fight, and you know being gay is still a bit of a touchy subject back home. I mean they want me to sack Aruk just because they think he might be gay, only because he haven't found anyone yet. That make no sense, he always in a whorehouse on the weekend. What, that would be worst, we can't have school teacher going to whorehouse. Well, he very good at genjutsu. Anyway, if he at the strip bars you go to, doesn't that make him gay? I didn't real tell the others, so they always drag me to site one. They always thought I was really prudish, but that changed when they found me handcuffed to the bed one day. Apparently they could hear me screaming, so came to my rescue. Well, that would be a big hint. Back to subject, where would he work? I can set up a portal, he can work here. The time difference would surely get in the way. I think I can deal with that with the help of the fox. If not, I can always find him work. Magic is a very useful tool, can do just about anything. I see you better give the little brat some training then. If I'm allowed to. Properly not, but I doubt anyone will be looking into it. Well, you're there, train his friend, it might do them some good. That could work. How's the talk going the first days? The hardeds. To be truthful, I doubt they will last. They think of them too highly. They seem to think that they're the one that should be offering us protection. That because I haven't show any of them any real jujutsu. Wall they will see, no doubt. We won't have to deal with them for too long. Turn around. Naruto turned to face the Hokage. She stood up and used her hand to brush a strand of hair out of Naruto's eyes. You could almost be my little girl, couldn't you, my Naruto? Naruto just gave a small laugh, then for good measure gave a curtsy. Ah well, you have a good night and you don't need to get up tomorrow. I will get some of the other to do the round, let you have a lay-in, said the Hokage as she spewed from the room. So, said Harry looking fair at Naruto back as the blonde boy replaited his hair. You spoke with the Hokage? Naruto had gone back to sleep almost straight have the Hokage had left and Harry had followed suit soon after. So the morning after was time to see if Naruto real did like him enough to take him home with him. Yes, I have. And I will arrange something for the three of you that to said you Hermione and Ron as soon as possible. Staring today maybe. The Hokage thought it'd be good if you three knew how to slave alone and in the wild, it may prove useful to you in the further. Said Naruto without real seeming to care, and Harry smiled.
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.